So in terms of your role, what do you get involved with day to day then?
Everything. Yeah.
So to start off with, if you wouldn't mind, just tell us about your current role, what you're up to at the moment, and what you do.
So I'm finance director at Barrett David Wilson, Southampton.
Yeah.
So we do about 200 million turnover, about 700 units a year. We cover the south, obviously, down to the Isle of Wight, across to sort of Poole and Bournemouth.
Yeah.
We could go up to Whitchurch and then right across to Chichester Way at the moment.
So in terms of your role, what do you get involved with day to day then?
Everything. Yeah, everything. So I'm obviously liaising with the other teams of directors, interested in sales prices, making sure they're heading the right direction, commercial department to make sure that all our costs are robust for all our sites, technical and land. Land, certainly, if we're looking at buying new sites, is it viable? Does it hit the group's hurdle rates, etc.? And construction, can we build them quick enough to sell them?
So we're effectively wearing a lot of hats.
I kind of get involved in all the departments, to be honest.
Do you still go and visit completed houses and just give them a little bit of a sign off sometimes?
Yeah, so in our role, so we've got 7 directors, we've got 20 odd sites, so we've all got a couple of sites each, and we're called the director in charge. And when a plot is built complete by the site team and ready to hand over to a customer, we go out 2 weeks before and sign it off to make sure that we're happy with it. And that's not a technical process. You're going through as a customer to say that you would be happy to move into that plot the next day. It's a 5-star standard.
So it's good to know you're still kind of hands-on, involved, seeing the product.
Yeah.
And how long have you been in this role for, Glenn?
I've been in this role 4.5 years.
And was this your first directorship?
No, I had one before for a year before that with Seracor Group in Havant.
And where your role is so varied, how would you describe a typical day? What does that look like for you?
It's very different now since lockdown, obviously.
Yeah.
So historically, before lockdown, I'd be in work 7 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
I'd go home 7 o'clock at night throughout that day. I'm in various meetings, valuation meetings, sales revenue meetings, land meetings, management meetings, or I'm going through a budget process or a reforecasting process. Now it's all remote, so I'm in the office 1 or 2 days a week. That's mainly to sign things off, land registry forms, for example.
Yeah.
A typical day for me now is get on the laptop sort of 8 o'clock-ish. So already I've got a better work-life balance for that. Before I was leaving sort of 6:45, 7 in the morning. Now I can get up, give the kids breakfast, which is a big plus for me, work-life wise. Conference calls and doing the same sorts of things I was doing before, but remotely.
I think it's the same for everyone. Just that work-life balance is just so much better.
Yeah, it's made a big difference for me personally, recognising what I wasn't doing before, to be honest, and how important it is. I've got 2 young children, so that's been an important time for me, to be honest.
And as a business, you using Zoom, Teams?
We use Teams,
Yeah.
Microsoft Teams, so that was rolled out. I mean, lockdown was the 24th of March, and Teams was out that week and sorted and rolled out across the business.
Have you always worked in the sort of construction house building sector, or have you kind of dabbled elsewhere?
No, I've been in lots of different industries. So I started in practice as a youth training scheme. Then I went into a small family business selling window blinds.
Okay. Well.
Then I moved into an international oil spill response company. I took a year out and worked up north for a family member, helping them execute a management buyout. That was great experience for me. I did a small stint in waste management. And then I got into Barrett's as finance manager. That was back in 2009. And I was looking for a director's role. And unfortunately, the opportunity just wasn't there for me at the time. So I left to get my first director role, funnily enough, in a recruitment firm. Fantastic company, great people, but the industry wasn't for me, to be honest. I just didn't float my boat, really. And then I got offered the opportunity to go back to Barrett's due to an internal promotion. The FD role come up, and I kind of bit their hand off and went back.
Brilliant.
I think construction is where I probably belong, to be honest.
How does working in recruitment compare to working in construction? Because I'm running a recruitment business, so I know the kind of ins and outs. I'd imagine you kind of know the ins and outs of the recruitment business now, in terms of what we do. But how does it compare to running a construction business?
I went into the recruitment role thinking I was going to enjoy the buzz of being involved with people getting jobs and placements being made.
Yeah.
And in the finance world, it just isn't like that in recruitment. You are, looking at margins and performance and contractor rates. I just didn't get a feel for it. Whereas in construction, I'll talk to my land director about a plot of land. He'll show me where it is, and we'll go and do a site visit, and then we'll go through a lengthy process to either agree terms on it, and then get approval to buy it through group, go through a planning process, and then before you know it, a couple of years have gone by, and I'm inspecting plots for people to move in. So for me, that's an exciting part of the job.
Yeah, I guess you've got that kind of tangible end product. But in recruitment, it's that service of getting the job, filling the job with someone, and ultimately changing someone's life ultimately. But you've got a big house at the end of it, and you can walk around. I was part of that. Taking it back then, so why did you get into finance? So you trained in practice, but why did you want to become an accountant then?
Truthfully, during my GCSE years, I probably lost interest in education, to be honest. Always quite ambitious. I come from quite a poor background, so I wanted to kind of get out there and earn money. I left school on the Friday, finished my exams, and then obviously my mum said to me, you need to be getting out and getting a job. So I went looking for jobs, really. My science teacher knew a firm of accountants, funnily enough. The partner was her son's godfather. Set me up with an interview for an office junior job, which was going to be filing and making tea and all that sort of stuff. And I went for the interview, and he just sort of questioned me on a few numbers and said, do you want to be an accountant? And I was probably a 16-year-old kid. I went, yeah, okay, yeah, sounds all right. And that's how I fell into it, to be honest.
It wasn't that sort of burning desire from a young age to then become an accountant. It just kind of naturally just fell into it by the sound of it.
Yeah, I don't think there's many people in the world that have a burning desire to be an accountant.
And I presume at practice you studied for a qualification?
Yeah, I did. I was 16 years old, so I got into doing college part-time. Very supportive employer that would give me, I think they gave me half-day release, so I had half-day and evening, so I was doing AAT. So yeah, I studied for that while I was in practice, but I realised after, I think I did 4 years there, I knew that I liked accountancy, but practice wasn't for me. I wanted to get out into industry, really. Yeah. So I did my AAT, but I then left that firm and got into industry. And I think that's probably my biggest regret. I went to a firm that didn't support study. Okay. So I had quite a long gap before going on to do SEMA. And that's probably my biggest regret as an accountant, that I didn't carry on with that study straight away.
Do you reckon, did you self-study, or were they kind of quite supportive in terms of, did they fund you on that side?
In practice, they did. Yeah. When I went into industry, it was a small family business. They had cash flow issues themselves. It wasn't a hugely successful business, but I realised after doing a few years there that I was going to need to go and work for a bigger company, one that wanted to support me. It wasn't about the financial side, it was more about the time, to be honest. Yeah. So I knew I'd need to take a step back, work in a bigger company for a financial controller who was going to guide me and support me through my studies.
I think for your studies, having that, as you mentioned, not just the financial support, but also the kind of academic support, helping you through your exams, helping you study as well, and just how you go about doing that.
Yeah, because you pick stuff up in the studies that you won't have done in a work capacity, and you need someone to help you apply it.
And in your opinion, do you reckon it matters when you qualify? Because you get some people that can do it in 2 to 3 years, some people do it 5, some people do it longer. Do you reckon speed matters?
Well, I'm going to say no, it doesn't, because it took me ages. For me, my way of learning was always, it takes a long time for it to go in, but once it's in, it's in. Whereas I've worked with people who qualified in 2 to 3 years, they were exam passing machines.
Yeah.
and then it was out again. But that's worked for them, that's fine. But for me personally, that's the way I learned. I just took my time, and I was never a strong performer on the exams with regard to 70, 80%. Even as a young man, looking back to my school days, I was always, well, if I need 50%, then I want 50%. And I was always 45 to 55. That was always a range for me. I'd either just pass or just fail. Until I did top SEMA. When I did top SEMA and it was a case study and it felt like real life.
Yeah, you do get some people that are, as you mentioned, kind of more academic. They kind of fly through the exams, but then someone just goes straight out again. I'm similar to that. I learn by doing. And like repetitive kind of doing it, and then it's in. And once it's in type thing. But would you recommend people looking to get into finance to study for qualification?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I've worked with some great people that are they're called QBEs, aren't they? Qualified by experience, and it's worked for them. But for me personally, the career path I want to go down, I think it does open more doors in the qualification.
And in terms of where you are now, how important would you kind of hold being qualified with where you've got now?
In my role now, it's very commercial, so there's a lot of the strategy type stuff that I can apply. It's not quite as important in the role I do now. I don't, look back and think, well, good job I did that paper on there. But it was important when I was a finance manager looking to become a finance director. People, if you're a finance director, people want you to be qualified. They want to know that you're not just blag it in an interview, and you can do the job.
Yeah, and you've got the kind of the letters off and then a bit of paper to kind of back up.
And the drive to push through, because make no mistake, it's hard work doing those exams, and it's you have some real tough moments where you want to give up. It takes a lot of drive to crack on and do it.
What advice would you give to people wanting to develop a career in finance, or
people that they're already in finance, or people that are looking to get into it?
People want to get into it. So maybe someone who's, it could be anyone really. It could be anyone who's just left school or college and find out what to do. Maybe someone later in life. But what sort of advice would you want to give them to develop?
Contact people in LinkedIn. Do some work experience. I mean, we have a lot. We used to prior to lockdown. We have a lot of young people coming in doing work experience, and a lot of people either come in and loved finance, wanted a career in it, or like, no, that's not for me. So I think before you're going to dedicate and commit a long time to the studies and the career progression, you need to see if you're going to like it. And if that means right now it'd be quite tough to get a job, you might need to go and do a bit of work experience and see if you like it.
Yeah, that's a really good idea. People like fall in love with the idea of becoming an accountant. They see people doing it, I'd love to do that. When you actually do the job, in terms of what's involved with, like, this might not be for me.
Yeah, I had a young man come and do some work experience for us, and he said, I want to do your job, but I don't want to do the work to get there. I don't want to do the bit, so, I don't want to go through all those exams. I don't want to learn purchase ledger and sales ledger. I just want your job now. That's going to be, mate.
And just on that, what skills do you reckon people need to be a successful finance director?
You've got to have tenacity to do the studying. Attention to detail is obviously really, really important. You've got to have some difficult conversations sometimes in finance as you're going up through your career. If you're in management accounting, you've got to stick to policies and procedures, and that might mean telling someone that you work with in another department that they can't have their mileage claim because they've not put the receipt in. That could be quite difficult. You've got to be quite driven on that side as well. But for me, you've got to show interest in the business that you're in. If you're in industry, you can't just be a bean counter in the corner counting the numbers. You've got to show interest in what the business is doing, and you'll get other departments buy-in then. And as an accountant, knowledge is power. If you know there's a problem in a department because someone's told you about it, you can add value, definitely.
I guess it is those softer skills as well, isn't it? Like I said, just not being a bean counter in the corner.
Definitely.
Going to chat with whoever in a different department, and then they might not understand finance speak as well, and you kind of technology. So just kind of getting on the speaking to them the way which they will understand as well.
Yeah, most people outside finance will be intimidated by a finance person. So if you can not be an intimidating character, you're halfway there, definitely.
I guess sometimes finance is seen as a bit of a blocker, aren't they? You know, we can't.
Yeah, the police of the business, yeah, the reaper, everything's going wrong. So yeah, if you can try and stop that, then that'll make a big difference to your career.
Then what are your professional goals over the next 3 to 5 years? What do you want to be doing?
For me, I've been in the role 4 years, but I still feel there's a lot for me to learn operationally in the business. There's lots I don't know about construction, lots I don't know about land buying. Sales, I feel more comfortable. Commercial, I feel comfortable. Technical is very confusing in construction. You know, Section 278 agreements, 38 agreements.
Yeah.
A lot of stuff that I don't always quite understand. So my goal over the next couple of years is to really get into those departments and understand it.
I guess it's just on that job learning, isn't it? Just getting involved with it, just seeing.
Just constantly resetting. Just when you think you've nailed something, it's then working out what you need to move on to gain more knowledge.
And when you hire people for your team, Glenn, what's more important to you, attitude or experience?
Attitude, yeah. Because for me personally, I think if someone's got the right attitude, you can probably teach them anything. Whereas if someone hasn't got the right attitude or can come across as lazy or not engaged in the business, find that harder to work with. Don't get me wrong, I've had someone like that in the past and I've managed to turn it around. Or it's finding out what's going wrong for them. Why is their attitude not great? But yeah, overall, I think you can, if someone's got a great attitude and a positive attitude, you can work with that, even if they haven't got the right capability.
What would you say is the best lesson you've learned throughout your career?
Never fall out with employers when you're leaving.
Yeah, okay.
So I can honestly say, I've had a few jobs over the years.
Yeah.
And I could phone up any one of my previous bosses and have a conversation with them, or go out for a drink with them, or invite them out for dinner. I've always left on a high, as far as I'm aware. Hopefully I won't hear any different after this video goes out. But that's important. I think in finance, you have to have an element of, when you're challenging things, don't tell me, show me. People can tell you things that aren't always quite right. And I think trust your instincts as well. A lot to be said, I think. If something doesn't feel quite right, it probably isn't. And as a finance professional, you need to be trusting your instincts and checking things. Just because a spreadsheet gives you an answer doesn't mean it's the right answer.
Just going back to keeping good relationships with your bosses, I guess that's a good example with Barrett, where you left.
Yeah.
And then also get that relationship going there, and then end up going back there a year later.
I remember when I handed my notice in as finance manager, my boss at the time was really disappointed. He understood completely. And I remember when I left, he did it like a big leaving speech, and he said, hopefully he'll be back if the right opportunity comes up for me. He was talking about himself.
Yeah.
Then then Glenn will be back in this company. And I don't know, it's really weird. It sounds a bit cheesy, but I honestly thought when I left, I will be back here. I didn't think the job was done, to be honest. I wanted that finance director role in construction. So when I got the call, I think it was 11 months after, I had to play it a bit cagey because I was negotiating salaries, but I was desperate to go back.
That's just a really good example of just keeping in touch, doing a good job, and also working hard as well. Because you work really hard in that finance manager role. So they a year later. If you hadn't ended up being in finance, what do you reckon you'd be doing right now?
I honestly haven't got a clue. I asked my mum the question.
Yeah.
We always wanted to be a farmer as a kid. I don't know where that come from, because I've got no practical skills whatsoever. Can't even put a shelf up at home. I suspect probably sales. I'm naturally drawn to sales and success. That interests me. Whether I'd have the gift, I don't know, because you've got to have the gift of the gab to be a salesperson. But closing a deal, I will get a buzz out of. So I suspect sales, probably cars, maybe. Wouldn't surprise me if I'd ended up doing something like that.
Not so maybe like estate agents selling houses.
I didn't really show any interest in property, to be honest. The job come up for Barrett's when I was at Hippo Waste.
Yeah.
It wasn't like I desperately need to get into housing. I just went along for the job interview. It was a permanent job, and it was a good package, etc.
Yeah.
It was only when I got into the industry that I realised how much I liked it.
And knowing what you know now, what advice would you give to younger self
Well, going back to what I said earlier, don't take a break from your studies. I took probably 3 or 4 years out of my studies between AAT and SEMA.
Yeah.
And then it was really hard to get back into it because I left school, went into AAT. I should have just carried on and got them done. And I was in a perfect position. You know, I didn't have a family or anything like that, so it was perfect time to have done it. But I suppose that would be one bit of advice. Going back to what I said earlier, trust your instincts.
Yeah.
I over the years I've been for job interviews and you know, on paper it looks like a great job, it's the right salary, you got on well with the person interviewing you, but walked away and just thought something doesn't feel right, something doesn't add up here, doesn't feel like something I'm desperate to do, and turned a few jobs down over the years just for no reason apart from a bad instinct, and it's always turned out right. Company's gone under, well, they've relocated up north, or I've met someone a month later who's said what a horrendous company it is. So trust your instincts. I went against my instincts once, and I shouldn't have done it.
You trust your gut.
Yeah.
You know, look where you are now.
It's such a basic thing as well, because as accountants, we analyse and overanalyse everything. You don't actually need to, I don't think. Just trust your gut feel. And
if you could invite 3 people over dinner, alive or dead, who would they be and why?
This is a tough one. They're not going to be great answers, but for me, Ian Wright, previous Arsenal striker. Okay. I'm an Arsenal fan. My absolute hero.
Yeah.
I love his passion for the club. You know, watching footballers now, I look at him and how he used to play and the delight that he used to get from scoring a goal, and it wasn't all about money then. I think I'd love to meet him. Big Formula One fan, Ayrton Senna. Love to have met him, definitely. And I think he was a very complex. I'd love to know what really drove him, and probably some sort of entrepreneur. I don't think I can narrow it down, to be honest. I was always fascinated with Dragon's Den. I liked all the dragons, to be honest. Trying to think of the most approachable out of all of those, to be honest. They're all pretty scary. So.
What about Alan Sugar, Apprentice?
Can't. He's a Tottenham fan.
Oh yeah, good point.
Actually, that'd make a good dinner, actually, wouldn't it? Tottenham fan and Arsenal fan, but yeah, Alan Sugar.
Thank you so much for sparing some time. Really appreciate it. It's just a really good, just kind of insightful chat. Just finding out a bit more about yourself and how you got to where you are. So thank you.